Welcome to this week's exciting edition of your favorite show, LAKHO, your favorite consumer affairs program, Konala SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Umajali uthi asibonge phela ukuthi sibe sonke namhlanje bukeli isimo ke somnotho esinzima sesenze phela abantu abalapha abaningi eningizimu Afrika ukuthi baphile ngezikweletu inyanga nezinyanga. But some of these payday loans offered everywhere, including online, could of course expose consumers to many risks. We are live on 011-714-6918, alternatively 714-6919. consumer@sabc.co.za is our email address, and of course, siyatholakala on Facebook as well as Twitter. Asibheke ukuthi udaba lesi siliphethe namhlanje luthini.
Liyalisanda inani labathengi beli abaxhomekeka nyanga nenyanga kwimboleko mali zexeshana ezaziwa njenge-payday loans. Ezimboleko mali zinikezwa ziivenkile ezithile kwaneenkonzo zemboleko mali ezikwi-internet. Uhlobo lwemboleko mali kwi-internet lolona ingathi ludumile kubathengi abaminxekileyo ngokwasezimalini ngenxa yokuba lubonwa njengendlela engasokolisiyo ekufakeni isicelo salomboleko mali. Kaloku i-intanethi ibonwa njengendlela ekhawulezileyo, lo mali ingene ngephanyazo e-akhawuntini yakho. Ngaphezulu koko, le ndlela yemboleko mali ayibe ifuna imiqathango emininzi engqongqo njengasezibhankini phambi kokuba eso sicelo siphunyezwe. Abo banamarekhodi amabi entlawulo matyala banethemba lokuphunyeziswa kwezicelo zabo zemboleko mali ngokungenamagingxi-gingxi njengoko kungekho phononongo okanye vavanyo lokuba umntu uza kuba nakona ukulihlawula elo tyala. Kodwa kukho ingozi abo baxhomekeke kwimboleko mali kumaqonga e-intanethi abangagagana nazo. Oku kuquka ubututu bomazisi babantu okanye engenza umntu abe sisisulu sezikrelemnqa agaxeleke kwimigibe engamohlukanisa nemali yakhe. Le ncwadi yembalelwano phakathi komthengi othile neofisi yomxazululi weengxaki zamatyala, i-Credit Ombudsman, ibhentsisa undonakele okhoyo xa kuziwa kulomba wemboleko mali kumaqonga e-intanethi. Silibhekise kule ofisi ukuva ukuba abathengi babethakala xa kuthenina.
Alipheli ilanga ungakhange udibane nomntu bafumane ifowuni yomntu okhalayo into yobana ndiyakhala ndibhatele imali enga. Kodwa ke abanye baye bavundle kamsinyane abhatale mhlawumbi le yokuqala le kuthiwa administration fee.
Kakade zimali ezitheni ekufuneke zikhutshwe ngabathengi xa beboleka imali?
Zininzi kaloku bazibiza zibe ninzi. Kuba kwi-admin fee, kube kwi-tax fee, kube kwi-release of funds, kube kwi-paperwork. Wake wayivaphi into enjalo?
Nakubeni i-online payday loans zinokuba sisisombululo kumthengi ofuna imali ngokukhawuleza ngenxa yemeko engxamisekileyo, kukho ithuba elikhulu lokuba unokuqhathwa uphulukane nemali oyisebenzele nzima.
Ngenye igame apha ndafumana i-consumer eyathathelwa 100,000 yonke. Can't come inumber umChina, uyabafowunela abantu asafumaneki abantu ezifowunini. Le 100,000 uyiboleke kwi-family members, kwiitshomi, kwintoni, uyayibona ngokushiyeka phi enentloko ebuhlungu because uzababhatala ngantoni aba bantu.
Sindwendwelele ofisi ebolekisa ngemali kumaqonga e-intanethi eMidrand.
We're an online payday loans company. Everything we do it virtually, from application until payment. So we have a system where we use to capture the information. When you apply, we have a CRM where you can communicate with us directly. via messages and emails, and we have what we call New Pay, and we use that to send a debit check mandates to our clients. And we have added another system called Sign Now, where we send you a loan contract document where you can sign on your phone and you can sign anywhere, which makes it convenient and easy for anyone, anywhere to use.
Nangona bona bezinca ngokuba bona bayawulandela umthetho kodwa bakhe badibane namagingxigingxi.
We had a client, a gentleman, he sent his documents, latest 3 months being said everything was in order. And then we sent the documents through for assessment, and then he was approved for 2,500 rand. And then I asked him to send me his work email address and acceptance of offer, and then he said, I accept the offer, with the work email address, everything, signature, everything was there. We confirm via email, and then we Google your company, and then we get the details straight from their website, and we call them HR direct, the headquarters, and then we ask them to confirm your employment. So we did this for this gentleman, and then the HR lady said, I'm sorry ma'am, we have no one by that name here. I said, please, can I spell out the name for you? I did, the ID number, payslip, everything. They didn't know this guy. So we get a lot of those clients with false bank statements, with false payslips.
Xa abathengi nababolekisi bethwaxana kanje ngobuqhetseba kwi-intanethi kuthiwa nina. Khona umbona njani umbolekisi osemthethweni? Phaphama Changana Dube, Yilungelo Lakho.
Siyabonga kakhulu mbukeli. Asiphinde ke sibonge kusisi uPhapha Mantshangana ngalowo mbiko mbukeli. Manje ukukhuluma kabanzi phela ngodaba lethu la namhlanje asibingelele ivakashi zethu today. We have usis Lebogang Selibi omele i-National Credit Regulator alongside Miss Leonie van Pletzen. Yena ke she is from MicroFinance South Africa. Beautiful ladies, good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, I wanted some comments on the inserts in terms of how much education do we all think people have when it comes to the rules and regulations of actually applying for finance online. Lebogang, are people even aware ukuthi there are binding regulations nemithetho khona lapha online? Muboleka.
Unfortunately, abanye abantu abazi ukuthi ukhona umthetho ozobavikela when it comes to credit. And i-payday loan nayo ifola under umthetho lo wethu osubiza National Credit Act.
Okay.
So umthetho lo ukuthi bawu-introduce ngo-2007, it was merely ukuthi uprotecte umthengi emakazothatha i-credit. For example, if uzothatha i-credit provider fanele iqiniseke ukuthi uyakhona ukumbhatala back na, abheke certain things, abheke ukuthi unayo i-income, and i-income yakho ibhatala ini nani on a monthly basis.
Yes.
When ungathi uhola i-7,000 only to find ukuthi kule 7,000 awusasali ngalutho. So fanele ayenze into esibiza i-affordability assessment, abheke i-credit bureau report yakho, abheke nawe as i-consumer ubhale phansi izinto lezi ozosibhadala nge-7,000 yakho. If ubhadala i-school fees, fanele ubhale ukuthi i-school fees imalini, ukudla imalini, i-rent or i-bond,
and be honest.
Expenses. You have to be honest, because if you are dishonest, unfortunately umthetho angeke ukuvikele if you want to claim for into le esibiza i-reckless lending.
Okay. Leonie, I mean, very interesting that people are not necessarily that educated, but they're still going online to apply for these, because obviously I think we saw in the insert before it broke off. I mean, they were saying that it does not require lots of details for you to be approved for a certain loan. But I mean, there's major risks. Let's start there by the risks, and maybe just give us a bit of background in terms of what is the difference then between the National Credit Act versus the Consumer Protection Act, and how do we apply one on the other in terms of micro-lending?
Thank you so much for the question. I think let's start with the term payday loans.
Yes.
So in the National Credit Act, it doesn't actually state a payday loan. It's a short-term unsecured loan.
Okay.
And that is the loans in which our members specialize in. So we are governed by the National Credit Act. That is where we get our rules and our regulations from. And if I look at what you just shown on the insert, you know, to see it's easy loans, no credit checks needed, you know, it's easy to apply, that is actually not the case. So for a consumer, it is actually quite difficult to apply for a loan with a registered and legal credit provider because you have to run, you know, jump through a couple of hoops, affordability regulations, make sure your contracts and your quotes are in order. So it's just not that easy. The difference between the National Credit Act and the Consumer Protection Act is there is actually some synergies within the National Credit Act and the Consumer Protection Act. The National Credit Act, you know, guides the credit providers, and the Consumer Protection Act is there to protect the consumer. So our members has to abide by the NCA and also by the CPA.
Okay. Give us a bit of background context in terms of what it is that you guys do there by MicroFinance South Africa, Leonie.
Great. So MFSA, MicroFinance South Africa, is the voice of the reputable microfinancier. We are a voluntary body, so you don't have to belong to the association, but we represent our members where they cannot represent themselves. So if there is issues or concerns within the industry, that's where they come to us, and we actually take them on with the necessary stakeholders. We are also very proud to say that our members abide by regulations. We do provide them with training and information sessions. So if you are a registered credit provider with the NCR and with the MFSA, I feel that a consumer can have some form of trust that you are looked after.
Oh, that is interesting news. But Lebogang, asikhulume ngale demographic le ejwayele ukuthi iyahamba iyothola lama loan. Kade sikhuluma ngokuthi consumers in South Africa are cash spent. There's just literally no jobs, there's no money, the economy is suffering. So kumele ba rely upon these payday loans. But at which point then does umuntu take themselves to this point yokuthi I have to live month to month and month on a payday loan?
Yeah, unfortunately, as ushilo sisuguti,
it's a sad reality
with
though.
COVID as well. Unfortunately, abanye abantu abasithola kule simo where they have to go and borrow. But we are saying, even if you have to go and borrow, maybe is there something that you can cut off? We really encourage ukuthi senze i-budget on a monthly basis. I-budget is as simple as uthatha ipen nepaper, ubhale ukuthi uhola malini, and all your debts and all your living expenses. From there, you can be able to see ukuthi, okay, ngishota nge-1,000. From le 1,000 eshotayo, maybe grocery it's this much, I can be able to cut 100 rand lapaya, and then maybe ujwayele ukuthi wise imoto e-car wash instead wash and and then save you ujwayele ukuthi maybe nidle ama take out. You cut those little things. Pay TV, you can live without the pay TV for a couple of months just to go to adjust. The only muscle uthathe le step leso and you find ukuthi still imali iya shorter. It's then that you go and borrow, but you need to also make sure ukuthi when you go and borrow, remember a credit provider fanele kunikeza what we call a quotation and a pre-agreement statement. So before you sign, you can be able to see ukuthi if ngiyayithatha le loan ngisifaka kuphi, kusho ukuthi i-monthly installment bazokubonisa ku quotation ukuthi izoba malini, uzobhatala for how many months, and then ama fees wonke bazowabhala phansi before sign. Then you can be able to check ukuthi yo I won't be able to afford, or it's something that I can afford. So it's very important ukuthi bakunikeze quotation ubheke kuqala ukuthi are you able to afford that particular loan.
Affordability, not just from, you know, the lender, but
from
like
you as
literally
well.
you must commit with yourself. But Leonie, I mean, let's talk about the risks, particularly for the lender as well as the borrower, because I'm sure there are inherent risks there. What should consumers that want to go this route be on the lookout for?
So I think the first thing that is very important is the current reality is everyone wants access to credit because we are finding ourselves in very difficult situations. So when you do want access to credit, make sure that it is with a credible and a registered credit provider, because the risk for a consumer is much higher than the risk for a credit provider. Because if that consumer goes to a loan shark or a mashonisa or a skopper, you know, the interest that they ask is exorbitant. So our members and the registered credit providers have to abide by the National Credit Credit Act, which state that this is the percentage that you can ask, this is the initiation fee, and this is the service fee. If they go to the illegal underground market, they will find themselves in a debt spiral. So the first thing that I want to say is look out for the NCR's logo and for the MFSA's logo when you go online and want to have access to credit, and even if you go to a shop face-to-face and you want to access credit.
So they really need to be vigilant. Uyaxwayiswa ke lapho umbukeli ukuthi ungavani ufika ucofe ngoba sikhikiki la sikhuluma ngama online ama loans. Ungavani ucofe nje usayine your life away ungazi nokuthi what is it that you're committing yourself into. Before ibreak asithathe umuzi Mthethwa all the way ePhongole KZN. Baba Mthethwa ngiyakwamukela baba ohlelweni. Ngiyaphila baba kunjani? Baba Mthethwa siyaphila nsizwa, go ahead ngombuzo wakho baba.
Yeah, inkhona.
Yes. Singakusiza kanjani?
Yeah, khona ngingabuza impela nikhuluma ngakho la.
Yebo khuluma baba.
Okweloni mama.
Ngicela wehlise ivolume yakho ye-TV baba khona ngizokuzwa kahle bese ubeka umbuzo wakho khona so ekhefini.
Okay. The volume la. Okay, ma.
Okay, Baba Mthethwa, go ahead with your question.
Yes. Yeah, khona into engizokhuluma ngayo lapha ehlonyana ukuthi asingithinte kancane.
Yebo baba. Umbuzo wakho uthini?
Uthi ngizokhuluma ngemazamo nge-loan. La i-loan yazi eyande.
Okay, Baba Mthethwa. Baba Mthethwa ngicela ukuthi uphinde mhlambe usifonele masuzwile nje kancane. Namhlanje sikhuluma ngama loans lawa amancane ama loans ama micro loans lawa owatholayo online ukwazi ukuthi kuthiwe nje uya approve ngayo yonke into. 011-714-6918 alternatively 714-6919 consumer@sabc.co.za. We're back shortly after this ungayindawo. If you've got actual questions sicela usifonele emva kwaleli khefu. See you just now. Welcome back. Ilungelo lakho la kumamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. My guest today, Ms. Lebogang Selibi from the National Credit Regulator, alongside Ms. Leonie van Pletzen from MicroFinance South Africa. Namhlanje ke mbukeli sikhuluma ngama micro loans noma lama loans amancane owathola online ufika ucofe nje kuthiwe noma blacklisted noma unjani cofa la ufaka iID number imali yangena within 24 hours. But kunezinto zakhona ekumele uzazi ukuthi nakhona umthetho uya apply. So therefore that's why I've got the two lovely ladies la e-studio ukuthi bazosichazela ukuthi nina ke lokho ningakwenza njani. Pudzukisa all the way in Khayelitsha ndiyakwamukela bhuti wami.
Molo sisi wami.
Molo bhuti wami singakunceda njani today?
Umbuzo wami uma unge-loan ne?
Yebo dad.
Une-loan mazithi une 60 months period to pay, but you already paid about 11 months.
Okay, so you took a loan to pay out for 6 months?
No, 60 months.
60 months.
So,
okay.
So you already paid for 11.
Okay.
Now you get a lump sum, like a big amount somewhere, and you beg a loan, you loan
okay.
to shorten the period yako.
Okay.
But still, we loan yako, we balance yako. Basa kuchargela ne interest ye future months as sales batele already in future.
Ewe.
I restructure to say, okay, now you will finish your loan within maybe 10 or 11 months to come. Basathi uzayigqiba in 49 months to come. Central, which means i-interest rate zabo zise included kwezinye inyanga ezisele uzibhatalile again. And understand the old National Credit Regulation, how can I allow rules as injalo, but okay. Imply as the loan or credit providers.
Okay, le loan abuyifumene Pudzukisa, it was a micro loan, right? You loaning.
It wasn't a micro loan. It's from a bank. It's from an actual bank.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. I'll ask Usis Lebogang just to maybe touch on ingxaki yakho. But we were specifically dealing with microloans. But since usulethile lo mbuzo, it's actually a very interesting question. Siyabulela Tata. Very interesting. He says that you know, he borrowed money. He took a loan. It was supposed to be paid back in 60 months, but he managed to pay it back in 11 months. But he's still being charged the same interest rates. So he's asking, how can the National Credit Regulator allow such a practice? Sis Lebogang.
The way you understand that he didn't settle after 11 months, he just put a lump sum. Remember when he signed the contract, he signed for 60 months.
Okay.
So he got a lump sum somewhere, he put it into the loan.
As an advance of some sort, yes.
So, but the contract still remains, he still left 60 months, like 60 minus 11. Then only if he had settled, he would have then said to credit provider, I'm settling, can you please give me a settlement amount? But then if maybe, let's say, upatele a certain lump sum, he still left 60 months. The minute that he finishes, let's say it's 60 months, but he's left 3,000, he can pay that quicker, and then they won't be able to charge for the rest of the other months. You see, but e-contract will not just necessarily just change because you put a lump sum.
Okay.
It would have ended if he had settled a loan. A contract would have ended. But in his case, he's still left with the 60 months because he doesn't know, they don't know to uzoqeda before 60 months because that's what he signed up for in the first place.
But then is that, Leonie, isn't that like then like basically discouraging people that do come into some form of lump sum amount to say, you know what, let me try and catch up on my debt, because that is a responsible consumer who's saying, you know what, I've just received some lump sum money. I don't know when I'm going to be able to have as much. Let me put some inroads on this loan in terms of repayment. Isn't it discouraging them when we're saying, you know what, your interest rates are going to be the same for the next 60 months. You still contracted for 60 months.
So I think there's two differences. So there's a short-term unsecured loan and there's a larger unsecured loan. And this gentleman is talking about a larger unsecured.
One, yes.
So what I would always recommend is go and talk to your credit provider and negotiate with him. So if you have a lump sum that you want to put down, obviously you are going to get the benefit. Either your term is going to be a little bit shorter or your term is going to be the same, but the amount will be less. So talk to your credit provider, tell them this is exactly what you want to do, and then they will tell you this is the option you have. So I would really recommend that consumers talk to credit providers because that provides them with different options.
So he can't just put the lump sum in and hope that the credit provider is going to realize that, you know what, there was money that was put in here in a lump sum. All right, Putzugisa, ngiyathemba ke bhuti ukuthi usizakele lapho. Kuyasho ukuthi ngoba iloni yakho inkulu futhi unsecured futhi iqhubeka isikhathi and awuzange usetlishe njengoba echazela uSisi Lebogang. I hope ukuthi usizakele lapho. Mukobe lana Alex siyakwamukela.
Hello.
Hi baba, kunjani?
Ngiyaphila baba.
Ngiyaphila nsizwa, singakusiza kanjani namhlanje?
Yeah, i-question lenginayo mama ne ukuthi if ngifuna let's say i-cash i-payday.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, siyakuzwa baba.
Yes, i-payday cash loan.
Yes.
Then how can I trust online things, because these days they've got a lot of scam on the internet or website.
Okay. Siyabonga kakhulu Mokone all the way from Alex. Yes, baba.
Second question.
Yes.
Yeah. What happen if you're under credit debit review?
Or if you are under debt review?
Yes.
Okay, and you still want to take a loan?
Yes.
Okay, all right baba wami ngicela ulalele lapho nje siyanibingelele Alex impendulo seziyeza la. Let's start with you Lebogang. I mean, that's a very interesting question, two very interesting questions, and I think a lot of people actually overlook them. He says there's so many scams with internet when it comes to online. Why should he go that route?
So with time, technology also enhances, but one of the things that we caution against or we educate ukuthi bheka umuntu lo ozokunikeza imali, are they registered with the National Credit Regulator? We've seen ukuthi abanye abantu they duplicate registered credit providers, bathatha i-registered credit providers details bayifake ongathe yabo. So it's very important to check no NCR ukuthi is this the right one. Go website the NCR you get registered entities, and then there's also their addresses.
Okay.
So in order to make sure that one online, it's the same as the one who's registered. Just double check addresses, because sometimes the registered one, utu use Alex, 4th Avenue, then lower now Omtolile, utu se Cape Town. And then if there are 2 branches, a website will also tell you there's 2 branches. There's the Alex branch and there's the Cape Town branch. So it's to verify. If you can't verify, you can call us. Just to verify for you, or you can email us. And then in terms of other things to look out for, especially online, laba aba fake, they would in most instances say pay something upfront. We call them upfront fee. Today bazokufuna uzothi administration cost batalu 1,000 rand to kusasa ati we are releasing the funds from overseas, pay another 1,000 rand. You end up paying imali without the money is coming through, and you find out that entity does not even exist. So it's very important to check out are they legitimately registered, and then don't pay anything upfront before you're supposed to get a loan. E-loan, it's not like buying a product where you deposit. You can't deposit on a loan.
I mean, I'm looking for money. How can you ask me for money?
Yes, but I think because of a desperate situation, they end up paying little by little, only to find out at the end of the week, also patali 5,000. Bayabolega, friend, family, just to patal. Then the question at debt review. If you're under debt review, you cannot get any further credit.
Okay.
So that's one of the things. If you're under debt review, unfortunately, you cannot get any further credit up until you finish.
All right. Okay. But Mokobe, thank you so much for those questions all the way in Alex. Let's take another quick ad break. Boya kona manje is an educator today. Ama loans are online. You need to be very vigilant. Welcome back. 011-714-6918, alternatively 714-6919. Consumer at sabc.co.za. Ungasithola futhi ku Facebook as well as ku Twitter. Mbukeli, topic yethu yanamhlanje, we're talking about lama payday loans, of which in most yabo are legitimate, are registered. Njengoba seshilo Lebogang Selibi ukuthi some of these people are actually legitimate. You can go through them via the proper channels. They are compliant with imithetho yezwe, but you guys want to choose laba bathi hey angifune payslip, angifune proof of residence, angifune lutho. So we are trying to caution you against ukuthi uzothi ukhatha ama corners might actually land you in actual real trouble. All right, so Leonie, maybe let's talk about the good news. What are the advantages of applying for a loan online, and maybe more rights that consumers need to be aware of that they actually do possess even when they do apply for a loan online?
So I think the good news is with registered credit providers is that they do a proper affordability. So they can actually make sure this consumer can afford this credit.
Yes.
So when you go to a credit provider, you will have to fill in documentation to see if you can afford it, but it's good for you. Because at the end of the day, they are not allowed to over-indebt you. With these affordability regulations that the NCR implemented, they fall within certain bands. So a lender is not allowed to give you access to credit if it's not within your income band.
Okay.
So that is very good for the consumer, and that provides them with access to fair and legal credit. So I think it is very good for consumers to make sure that when they are doing an affordability with a credit provider, that they are truthful and honest. There's also responsibility on them to be truthful and honest, because sometimes if you don't tell them what your expenses are, it may seem that they are over-indebting you, but they are working with the information that you are giving them. Yes.
Yeah. So what would be the disadvantages then, Lebogang?
The disadvantages would be what I've mentioned. It duplicate those ones that forge your legitimate credit providers.
Okay.
Asking for upfront payment.
Oh, yes, yes.
Those ones. So if it's, and in most cases, if it's too good to be true, but no credit checks, blacklisted welcome, then you should raise eyebrows, because once somebody says that, it means they want to cut corners. In National Credit Act, it's very specific to say those are what we call terms that are not allowed. You're not supposed to say blacklisted consumers are welcome. You're supposed to do an affordability assessment to check ukuthi umuntu can be able to repay you now. Why would you say blacklisted are
welcome,
or SASSA recipients are welcome? Because you need to do an affordability assessment. Whether get blacklisted or whether get SASSA, you need to do that affordability assessment.
Now, I think you spoke about reckless lending earlier on. Obviously, lena sikhuluma ngayo, but mungachazela ama-consumers ubani osuke be-protected ke by the National Credit Act mekuwukuthi mhlampe i-consumer isiyahamba iyobophisa umashonisa or umuntu ethathe kuyena i-loan athola ukuthi he actually didn't follow the legal prescripts of ukuthi they supposed to do ama-affordability checks nani. Umthetho uzosayida nobani? Because nangu Alicia, fine, Alicia didn't verify the validity or ukuthi whoever I'm taking the loan from is actually registered. I just saw something, an ad online. I clicked and I actually received some money, but I actually can't pay it back now. This guy is taking me to or ombudsman or whoever. Uzosayida nobani umthetho? Because this guy many umthola ukuthi ubenza reckless lending.
Angithi umthetho uzobheka kuqala ukuthi is the person registered or is the company registered with the NCR?
Okay.
You're not supposed to lend money if you're not registered to start with. And then uyenze i-affordability assessment na. If uthola ukuthi akayenzanga i-affordability assessment, they will also look at that. On top of that, bazobheka ukuthi i-consumer nayo abayi-enrichi unfairly. Uthola ukuthi uboleke u-10,000, then they will say to you, don't pay the 10,000. They don't know. The purpose of the act is not to also enrich consumer unfairly. You can't just benefit unfairly. If uthatha imali, you will need to pay it back. But court is a dealer ne credit provider. If they were not registered, but they went ahead and did izinto zama registered credit providers, they will deal with them accordingly. If akayenzanga affordability assessment, so the court will then make a determination. We can recommend to the court and say we want to see 1, 2, 3, but obviously the overall outcome would be as per the court to it's the National Consumer Tribunal. That's where we refer our cases to. After looking at them, we refer to them to say this is the case. We, in terms of the act, this was supposed to happen. So we recommend to maybe give them a fine. If it's a registered credit provider, we would say, depending on the case, we can even say we recommend that you deregister them. Then the tribunal will look at the merits of the case. A lot of them have been deregistered. I know we've communicated in April, May. There's a lot of them who were fined more 1 million. They were deregistered, and it's from all over Cape Town, Hammanskraal, Eastern Cape. So it happens. So they are prosecutable. Regularly. Yes, it happens regularly. To court. Yes, and for such things, not doing affordability, abanye uthola ukuthi they acting as a credit provider which they not registered. So those type of things. So we deal with those. Obviously, in most cases, we deal with them in the background, and our consumer don't get to see that action is really being taken. So we also rely on consumers.
Want to see that action. Yeah. You must hold a media briefing when you've prosecuted somebody and charge them 1 million rand fine. Because I think then in that way, it's also going to conscientize the rest of the other consumers to say, you know what, don't just sit at home and these people are bullying you and they're saying you must pay back money. And they actually didn't follow the proper prescripts of the law. All right, so maybe, Leonie, let's talk about the common scams as well as the modus operandi that some of these scammers use, particularly when using online financing.
So the online world, that is the world that everyone is going to. So there's big syndicates out there. And I think the thing that comes to my desk a lot of the times is it's basically this identity fraud. Identity fraud of consumers and also that of credit providers, where these scammers actually take the NCRCP number of a credit provider and they abuse it and they use it against them. So it is very difficult for the industry to curb that, but we do refer everything to the National Credit Regulator as well. The MFSA is also working in collaboration with the Credit Ombud. So this is another avenue for consumers and for credit providers that if you have complaints, submit it to the Credit Ombud and they will be able to assist you as well. Yes.
All right. And then nina niyasebenza nelokhuzana ne-Credit Ombud obviously Lebogang, but ama cases i-process yokuloja i-case nani ihamba kanjani?
So Tina, angithi Tina, we are the regulator. The
Yes.
Credit Ombud is an ombudsman with jurisdiction to deal with credit matters. But every single credit comes to us. We do have an MOU with Credit Ombud to assist us with some of the complaints.
Okay.
So a complaint, a consumer would either call us or they will email us, complaints@ncr.org.za. Then you need to fill in a form. We call it a Form 29.
Okay.
Ama detail wako, igama, isbongo, and then also tell us what are you complaining about. Then depending on what you're complaining about, we'll probably need additional information. Then as soon as you give us all the information, sizokunikezwa a reference number and we'll look into the matter.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's go to Pretoria. Sithathu Baba Mkhabela. Hello Mkhabela. Thank you so much for joining us. Umbuzo noma umbona?
Njani mama?
Ngiyaphila baba unjani?
Ngiyaphila. Mina inkinga yami bangifonele basebankini bangitshela ukuthi no ngiyaqualify a personal loan.
Okay.
So yeah, from 28 July so sikhulumisanile vele yonke into ilungile. So but manje mali ifake ingene. Imali ayingini enelafonini yami ngiyayibona mama ngibafonela bangitshela ukuthi lo muntu aphethe lezinto ubusy sisendela ama email akekho futhi. So angazi ukuthi ngenze kanjani then ngicela isizo la.
Okay, so imali namanje akangeni Makwela Mkhabela?
Never akangeni.
And then baphethe all your personal
in advance.
And then they've got all your personal information. So what happened after you gave them your ID, all your personal information? Bathulile.
Bathulile and ngicede time yami ngabafonela each and every day but impendula ngiyithule.
Hayibo. Okay baba siyabonga kakhulu sicela ulalele lapho kumabona kude wakho mbukeli nawe if you've been scammed 0117146918 alternatively 7146919 consumer@sabc.co.za. We're back shortly after this. Hey engathi sonisiza namhlanje. Welcome back. Sikhuluma ngama payday loan lama loan owathola phela uma ubona ukuthi hey inciphile ngempela le mali kule nyanga angizukhona ukuthi izingane ziye esikoleni zibe nemphako kube nesinkwe endlini kube nokudla so ubona ukuthi awuthi uthatha u1.5 la u3000 ubona ukuthi ungazisiza kanjani wena nomndeni wakho but ke sinexwayiso ukuthi you need to be very careful because not all those people abavela online abayiphopotha ukuthi ma blacklisted if you are on debt review you can come through tiwa amanga impela lawo and kungakusiza wena mbukeli ukuthi uye kulabo abaregistiwe so that in any eventuality masuyithola ukuthi unenkinga you've got ama relevant bodies nansi NCR nansi ilokhuzana iMicroFinance South Africa bayakhona ukuthi bathathe icala lakho balibhekisise ungazithola mhlambe nawe usukhomelwe ngemali othola ukuthi bakuphuce yona. All right, nazi inamba zami on screen. Ake sikhulume ngombuzo ka Mkhabela, was it Umkhabela from Pretoria. Now Leonie, I've explained to you during the ad break. I mean, I suppose I've just been asking you about some of the most prevalent scams inherent, particularly when it comes to payday loans. This guy, as I've explained his story, but is he being scammed? But for what? For personal information or what? Because he didn't receive the money, but he's given out his ID, his address, and everything else.
So this can be a couple of things, but I think the first lesson here is don't give out your personal information and don't give out your banking details. Guys, be very on the watch out for these irregular and illegal credit providers. Do not give information out over the phone if you haven't verified all of the information like Lebogang has stated. I think it is very important to also, if you know who these illegal lenders are, you know, go and report them. Go and report them to the NCR. You must stand up and have a look at these illegal credit providers and call them to term, because the credit providers that are registered with the NCR, they are really trying to be compliant. They're applying with the rules and the regulations. So I think the illegal guys should receive a lot of spotlight and a lot of attention. We have to call them to terms.
How do we call them to terms, Godage Lebogang? Is there anything, initiatives and wenzayo nina as National Credit Regulator ukuthi nizama ukuthi nigwebe lama scams?
Yes, we do. So the first point of contact, we rely on consumers to report them.
Okay.
Because remember, at times we don't know what in a certain community this person, because they don't advertise. They don't advertise. People know what unomashonisa. So by you as a passerby or as somebody who doesn't stay there, you won't know. But when somebody reports them, and they can even report as anonymous, then we can be able to go and look. Those who take ama cards wabantu, ama ID documents wabantu, emabanikeza credit, it's a criminal offense. So if such is reported, then we are able to go and do ama inspection way to, and ultimately do an investigation. So we, at the first point of contact, we really rely on consumer to report such cases. And in case what came to mind, bamfonele bathufuna loan. For me, it's like if you want a loan,
you know,
why must somebody remind you ukuthi ufuna loan? Yabona, sometimes siyasifaka enkingeni, but nevertheless, let's verify, is this person registered with the NCR before you even give them a number. And no, give me a detail. You can just say, call me tomorrow or call me in the afternoon. I just need to verify what you are registered. You can even contact, get a landline where the actual business, and call them and say, can I please speak to Leonie? She called me during the day, I offer a credit, and see is this company legitimate or not. And then you can be able to say, I like just giving out ama details work online or on telephone without knowing what you upa uban.
So what's his recourse here? What if he brings the case to you guys now? Azoti NCR na babantu bangfonele bathi ba ama lenders, this is the information, this is a number. What can you do to assist him?
Kuzo depend. We'll firstly check Uguti, is this person registered or not? If it's not registered, you find Uguti, probably we can't even find them. Then we send him Guma SAPS police station. It's a criminal case. He will need to go and open a case.
Because how many others are like him? I mean, with the POPIA Act as well coming in, personal information needs to be absolutely protected. Bagiti, I cannot stress this enough. Mhlale ngisho ngithi unganikezi umuntu ovana phone or those SMSs and responda kona. Abantu bayaganga, they are sophisticated, baba right, benza sure they are moving with the times. So wena uzobona SMS ethi no ukuzu activate ukuthi enza ukuthi ayikho imali mbukeli ekumele kuyikhokhele ukuthi uyithole. I'm sorry, angazi mina ngihlakane naleyo. All right, so please call us in studio if you still have any more queries. But now, Leonie, let's talk about the debit check and how it works in the microfinance industry.
So debit check is a whole new debit order system, which is actually great for the consumers.
Yeah.
And it was actually brought in because there was a lot of abuse, specifically with regards to debit orders, EDO, ADO, and NADO. So what happens now is the consumer actually has to verify that he signed for this debit order. This is a protection, protecting the consumer and also making sure that the credit providers get their money by authenticating this debit order. Debit check was brought into the credit environment because there was so much abuse. There was also abuse from consumers.
Yeah,
because
reversing
sometimes,
their money.
Yes, a consumer has access to credit, then they decide, I don't want to pay anymore. But with debit check, it makes it a lot more difficult in order to reverse those debit orders. Yes.
All right. Shooting mele kahle kahle bayikhokhele le mali abayithathile Lebogang bangabaleki ngokuthi bayo reverse. Now let's talk about amalokhuzana ama penalties. I know you've gone into a few ogubreacha ilokhuzani NCA in this case, and then maybe Leonie can talk about if you breach the MFSA policies as well as ethics, what are the repercussions? You can take it to court, nani, there could be fines, but easy pezing isn't enza show ukuthi ababuyeli back in the industry and just rebrand themselves.
Yeah, with that one, you can't stop them from rebranding because if they come back with another name or maybe another director, maybe family or so forth, obviously in the system we won't be able to sue which it was that other one. So they will come back, but even if they come back as a new company, they will still need, the rules are still the same, they will still need to follow in National Credit Act. If there are any complaints, or if we do, because we do over and above our complaints, we do what we call monitoring exercises. It's what we as the NCR go out and check ama registrants wethu ukuthi are you following the act, like asiza kuwe sithi give us ama credit agreements wakho angaka nangaka nangaka. In terms of the act ukuthi umuntu wenza umnikeza isikoloto, they need to complete a document, a credit agreement in a specific form. A quotation is a specific form. So you find ukuthi laba aba not registered, they don't even give you a contract to fill in. Bakubhale encwadini Lebogang Selibi 500 bathathi pin yakho ebayibhale ephepheni necard babo faka rekera, and then that's how they know. But in terms of the act, it's very specific, so those type of things would always be there. Our regulations are very clear. Whether you were deregistered, you came back as a new one with another name, or maybe with your partner or something, you will still need to follow the National Credit Act. And with the consumer as well, if you go and borrow money at a credit provider's place and they don't give you anything to sign, they don't even give you a copy, you should just know from there that something is not right.
All right.
Yes,
okay, uyezwa ke mbukeli sesixwayisile kaningi musu ukuhamba usayina uloku uklikikya uloku ucofa uthi wena send ngoba siyazi ukuthi you might be in trouble. Let's take a quick ad break. We'll be back shortly after this. Welcome back to our final segment. Sisakhuluma lana ngama payday loans nokuthi ke iziphi izinto ekumele uzazi wena futhi uziqaphele njengwe consumer ukuze phela ungazithola usulahlekelwe imali ne-information. My guest today, the lovely Miss Lebogang Selibi from the National Credit Regulator, as well as the lovely Miss Leonie van Pletzen from MicroFinance South Africa. Now, before I go to Leonie, Lebogang, I know that you were saying ukuthi nani, but you give accreditation kanjani, but can't you then withhold ukuthi ubanikeze license up until you verified i-office labo ukuthi they are actually going to be doing what they say they are doing? Make it more difficult for the illegal ones to just trade.
I mean, we can check, but currently we don't check our office prior. We check ukuthi are your documents in order.
Okay.
What is required, the criminal record. Yes, as per the act, that's what we are checking. Then ukuthi are your offices, you want to give us an address. Then if we come to do a monitoring exercise, then we will come to the address where the one that you gave us.
And I suppose it's a surprise visit, right? You're not going to tell me and arrange, like I'm coming next week.
We arrange in most cases, especially for monitoring, because remember,
then they're gonna put the fake documents there in front of you so that you just go and give them a blue tick.
Not really, because you don't know what we're looking for. Where we don't tell you, it's with regards to our inspections from our investigation side. Those are the guys who come and check ukuthi, is there any contravention? Are you withholding people's cards? And with those ones, usually we do them with in conjunction with the police, because when we find you with a card or an EID document, it's a criminal offense. Somar, they take you, amapoisa, they take you in because they arrest you. So those ones you won't know about because they don't tell you. But then these other ones, because they need to make sure you are there as well. The relevant person is there.
I still prefer surprise visits. Very quickly, Leonie, we are on our last leg. Breaching the MFSA policies and ethics, what are the repercussions there? What do? You
have to be registered with the NCR to become an MFSA member. We do not associate ourselves with illegal credit providers, and you have to comply with the National Credit Act and with the Industry Code of Conduct. So if there is any contraventions, we have a disciplinary committee which we look at, and then we act accordingly. All
right, ladies, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is where we're going to have to leave it today. Mbogeli, those were my ladies attendees today, Ms. Lebogang Selibi from the National Credit Regulator, alongside Ms. Leonie van Pletzen from MFSA, MicroFinance South Africa. And of course, siyathemba mbukela ukuthi usizakeleke ngazo zonke ixwayiso. Umajali uthi unithanda nonke emakhaya. Guys, please be vigilant out there. Sizonibona futhi next time. From myself, Umajali, and the rest of the team and crew. Nisale kahle.
LAKHO